Welcome back to another episode of the Fulfillment Podcast, where we discover a better you by finding fulfillment in life, relationships, and finance. In this episode, we're going to talk about trusting your core and what that looks like inside a relationship. While it can translate to finances, we're going to talk a lot of the relationship side of things. I got a lot of people asking me questions about it, so I figured we'd make an episode on it. So we talk about what it means to find your purpose, to trust your core, and how that can be degraded if you don't trust your core, and how people lose trust in you, and how you can even lose trust in other people if they don't follow their own purpose and their own core. How that looks like in a relationship. And then when you ask the question, Josh, that sounds great, but how do I care about somebody else if I'm always focused on myself? Well, we talk about that, and we'll dive right into everything that you may have questions about, because I think we answered just about everything that you could possibly wonder. Because if you trust yourself, then you're going to trust yourself with somebody that also does the same thing, right? And they're going to be confident with themselves. You're going to be confident with yourself. You're going to support each other in growing. You're going to provide value to each other, and you're going to teach each other what it's like to move forward. And while you need to spend time focusing on just who you are, you can take time aside and dedicate that and have quality time with your partner. Right? So it's not necessarily giving up who you are, but it's having quality time set aside to be with your partner and to spend that with your partner so that they understand they're still important to you. And it goes both ways, right? Both partners do the same thing. So we'll talk about all that stuff inside the episode, talk about what it's like to not sacrifice yourself, but to still be able to love your partner and to love each other while you help each other grow and fulfill each other's journey. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Okay. So getting into the 7th episode, trusting your core. What does trusting your core mean? Well, let's break this down, because originally what this was going to stem off of filling your cup, right? It was going to be the idea of making yourself whole before getting back out there and getting into a relationship and pretty much bleeding from one to another. Make sure that you're whole and you're healed before you get into another relationship with somebody that could potentially be something amazing, but you've kind of subconsciously sabotaged it because you haven't completely healed yourself, either emotionally or consciously, from whatever you've dealt with in the past before you come into the new one. So in this one, while it was going to be filling your cup, what I wanted to do is transition a little bit more into trusting your core, because what trusting your core does, I think, is it wraps a little bit more tightly around kind of the premise and what the whole body of this thing is really about. So trusting your core means trusting in yourself. It allows you to repair the damage that has been done essentially from previous relationships or other things. While this episode is going to be primarily based around the relationship aspect of it, you can also think of it in terms of a business side. It's going to be, like I said, it's mostly going to be on the relationship stuff. But on the business side, you can think of it too as healing from previous mistakes or previous errors or other things like that. So I'll leave that up to you to translate. I'm going to talk mostly on the relationship stuff, but use your mind, use your imagination, and you go ahead and walk yourself through kind of how this could wrap into business and finances just the same. So trust yourself, repair the damage that's been done from previous things. You really need to identify what it is. What is your purpose, right? I know we talked about the law of attraction stuff, and we've talked about painting what your point B looks like, right? Identifying what that goal is, what that visualization is that you're trying to achieve in the future. Whether you call it goal setting or visualization or prayer and meditation, whatever it is, you're trying to set a goal for yourself in the future of what you want to accomplish, where you want to be, and what you want things to look like for you. So if that means on the relationship, if you're going to be in a healthy and a happy and in a genuinely pure and real relationship, you need to make sure that in order to get there, you're healed first, right? You're trusting who you are as a person. You have a purpose, you have a goal and a focus, and you know you're going to hit that and you're going to drive towards it no matter what, right? You're going to move resistance and not deal with people that pretty much crowd your life and cloud and fog your mind while you're pursuing your purpose. And if that means that you have to let go of certain people or you have to kind of cut certain people out of your life, then that's what you have to do. But you really need to understand that in order to get to the point to where you can kind of stay focused on that path and stay driven on what that goal is that you're setting for yourself, that you've spent enough time alone by yourself in order to get there. Too many people nowadays, and we talk about the divorce rate and all this stuff, how it's different from maybe different generations, maybe from where our parents were, or from World War II and baby boomers and all that stuff, from where those were to where we are today, and how the divorce rate is drastically different. Well, I think a lot of that plays into a few different things, but trusting your core, I think, is a really strong piece of that, because a lot of us today maybe trust our core differently than what people back then would have, what previous generations would have, right? They find that maybe the relationship or the aspect of just sticking it out with a relationship is far more important and more or less supersedes more just following your goal and following your own purpose, staying on your mission. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's not bad to be on your mission and to be willing to leave people and all that stuff. You have to understand what that means for you and how you can play that in your own life. Because if you can't trust yourself and if you can't focus on yourself, then other people aren't going to trust you either. Pretty much, the way this all comes down is when you think about your ability to focus and stay focused on yourself. Think about it when you're hanging out with a friend, right? And you're with somebody, and this person maybe is a super driven person, and they're very focused on their goals, and whatever they say, they do, no matter what it is, right? If they're trying to be super ambitious and saying that they're going to start a business, or they're going to start this relationship, or they're going to do something like this road trip, or travel and visit new places, or go on vacations, whatever, they do it. They follow through and they do those things, right? When they say something, you trust them, you believe them, because they're not going to sacrifice who they are or their purpose in order to get to where they want to be. And you know that, right? So when they say something, you trust them. Now think of the opposite of that, right? Think about somebody that says something and you really don't ever trust what they're going to say is going to happen. They might say they're going to start a business, and they never do. They drag their feet. They come up with excuses. They all do these things. Maybe they're living with roommates or their parents or somebody, along those lines, and they always say they're going to move out, but they never really find a way to do it. Maybe you talk about somebody that's in a relationship right now and they're really, really unhappy with the relationship. Maybe they get mistreated poorly, or they're just not happy about it. And they constantly tell you how they're not happy, and they constantly seek counseling, and they're looking for help and all this stuff, where deep down inside, right, they know what they need to do. They do. They understand it. But we all have that gut feeling, right? That gut feeling, that God feeling, that understanding, that emotional conscious that tells us this isn't right, and we know what we need to do in order to fix it. However, we don't always take that action, right? And think about the person that always says things and never follows through with it, right? They're super wishy-washy. They don't stick to their word, and you never can trust what they're saying if it's ever going to happen. Think about the two different sides of that spectrum, right? Trusting your core follows very closely along the side that obviously trusts what they're saying. You can trust that somebody that's confident with who they are, that believes in themselves, and that trusts their core, who they are as a person, their mission, their purpose, finding their purpose and fulfilling their purpose. You can trust somebody that has done that they're going to follow through with things that they said, right? Be it emotional, relationship, or personal, right? On the life side, they're going to follow through with themselves. Whereas somebody that doesn't do that way, maybe they're really not that confident with themselves. And more likely than not, they don't trust who they are as a person in order to do the things that they need to do, or to do the things that bring them the fulfillment in their own personal life. So think about those two things, and that's really what this episode covers, and that's what I wanted to talk about, is getting out there and understanding what it's like to trust your core and what it looks like from the outside, from somebody else's perspective. And when you start thinking of it like that, you can start relating it to relationships. When you're looking for somebody, and if you think about the difference between a high quality person and a low quality, and I'll talk from the point of view from a male, but you can obviously correlate this to either side. You can, guy, girl, whatever. You could, either perspective. I'm just going to talk from the male perspective because I'm a guy, so I'm going to talk that way. But you can go ahead and relate this and switch the words and pronouns and stuff as you need. But so from the guy's perspective, right? From my perspective, if I'm looking for a high quality girl, right? There's a high quality and low quality, right? There's really no in between. You're either a high quality person or you're not. You're a low quality, right? If I want somebody that's high quality woman, right? A high quality girl who knows her worth, who knows her value, who knows her purpose, and is on her path and driving herself forward to that success, and isn't going to let anything get in her way, right? The high quality woman, beautiful, gorgeous girl, knows what she wants and is going to be an incredible companion. Someone's going to improve me as a person, myself, because she is also building herself, and she needs somebody that can do that, right? That high quality girl is going to need a high quality guy. So if you're trying to be in a relationship with a high quality person and you need to be a high quality person, that means you need to build yourself to become high quality, right? Now, what does that look like? Well, what that looks like is what we're talking about right here, trusting your core, right? You need to be somebody that trusts who you are. You're on your mission, you're on your path. You're not going to stray from your personal mission and your fulfillment to please or to modify it for somebody else. Because if you do that, then that's not you fulfilling your purpose. You're not striving to be the best version of yourself. And if you're not going to be the best version of yourself, how can someone else trust you to also do the same thing, right? Somebody says they're going to do something and they never follow through with it. How can you trust them that they're going to do it? You can't. And somebody that's a high quality person, right? If you're trying to be in a relationship with somebody like that, they can't trust you to make them better if they can't trust you to follow your own path and your own fulfillment, right? It's funny, I was reading this book. There's a few books, but this one in particular, it talks from the male perspective again, right? Just kind of like I am right now. But it's called The Way of the Superior Man. And I like to take a few different excerpts out of this book because this piece specifically really talks about a lot of the things in trusting your core, right? So while I say that a happy relationship is when two people come together who are happy independently, right? They fill their own cup before they meet and they come together. Each person is able to give to the other wholly because they're totally whole in themselves, and then they can give to the other person the pureness and the genuine love to the other person, right? Whereas if they're not, they can't do that. They can trust in each other because each other is whole and they're real, and they're genuine with their intentions and their truths when they speak and they talk to each other. They're not lying, they're not hiding anything up. There's nothing they have to fix left inside them, right? They're whole in themselves. So when they come into the relationship, they can give everything to the other person. They're not really focusing on building themselves anymore. They've already done that. They know what their purpose is. They know what their drive is. They're not going to sacrifice their purpose and their drive for the other person, which means they can give all that love and all that pure realness to the other person, because it's got to be real, right? In order to be happy, and this is, if you got to take something away, take it away from this one, but you have to be genuine. Like your love and your emotion has to be genuine when you are dealing with a relationship with a significant other, with anybody, right? You have to be genuine, because if you're fake about it, then it slowly degrades over time and it wears either you or your partner out, and that slowly dries the relationship to the point where there's no longer any chemistry or anything tying you two together. It has to be genuine, it has to be real if you want to be genuinely happy. Now, you can have a half-assed relationship, and you see that a lot of times, right? You see a lot of times, I'm not saying this is everybody, but I'm saying when you see somebody getting pregnant in high school or getting married right out of high school or something like that, a lot of times that's just a relationship. It's not a genuine, pure, real love. It's just a relationship. It's two people, they messed up, they had a baby, and now they're together. And then they live together for a very long time. You see that a lot with the Army and the armed services, right? You see people at a young age getting married, not quite understanding who the other person is, really not even understanding themselves, and then having children and building a family and doing all these things. And then before you know it, they get divorced when they're 10 years down the road. If they make it that far, they get divorced at some point. And then they're just sitting in this perpetually unhappy spiral where they never end up fixing anything. And that's all because they don't understand who they are. They're not genuine in the love that they give and the love that they provide in the relationship. It's very, very interesting concepts to think about, but it's just something that I really am passionate about, because if you want to be genuinely happy, you have to do things genuinely. And in order to do that, that means facing tough things like finding yourself and spending time alone. We're terrified of that concept and we're really scared to do it. But in order to be able to trust who you are, you have to be able to spend time by yourself figuring that out. You have to spend that time, and it's absolutely critical in order for it to work for you, because if you don't, then you bleed and you don't heal, and you continue to bleed from one relationship to another relationship to another relationship, because either you don't trust, you're thinking about somebody else, you don't think that you're good enough for someone, like you all these things start compiling and carrying over from one relationship to another, and you're just perpetually unhappy. In order to fix that and stop that, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to trust yourself, and you have to know, I'm not going to settle for anybody. I'm going to only be with somebody that helps me fulfill my purpose, because by doing that, I can bring genuine, real emotion into this relationship, which means that it's a pure relationship and it's real love, and that means that we're both going to be happy, genuinely happy in the relationship, and it's got to happen on both parties. So Next point to talk about, right? Because that's all very, very deep stuff. The next point is that mistrust in a relationship will eventually lead to the destruction, right? If you don't trust the other person because you're not healed and you haven't overcome your own emotional sacrifices or your shortages, then that is eventually going to destroy your relationship. You have to learn to be confident with yourself in order to do so. When you're in a relationship, right, when you start looking at different examples of being in a relationship and, sacrificing different things, it's kind of funny because in the book I was reading a part and it said, never dent your deeper truth to please a woman. If you don't trust your own core desires, then why should your woman, or anyone else for that matter? Self-trust develops a sense of trust from others. Learn to act from your core and to be confident enough to learn from it. And this is a pretty good one here, and I'll explain a little bit how this relates, but never change your mind to please a woman. Both of you will be weakened by this decision. When you notice yourself giving in to your woman instead of fulfilling your purpose, stop. Tell her you love her, but you cannot deny your heart's purpose. Your girl would rather have 30 minutes of ravishing, undivided love than a day's worth of uninvolved love, right? Let that one sink in. Never diminish your purpose for the desire of the other person in the relationship, because ultimately what happens is they lose trust in you in terms of your ability to fulfill your purpose, to stay on your mission. While they may want time with you, while you may want to go ride your motorcycle and they may come up to you and say, no, please don't go, like I want to do this and that, but you had a plan to go with your buddies, for a few days, and now she wants you to stay because you guys want to make cookies or, whatever, right? I'm not downplaying anything, but I'm just saying she wants to spend time with you, quality time with you, to do something instead. And, maybe you had this on the calendar or you had this opportunity come up. So let's take the first wave. You could essentially say, okay, sorry, fine, you're right. I'll tell the guys next time. And you call the boys and you tell them no. Well, one, not only have you diminished the relation, so first thing, right? You've diminished the relationship with the guys, with the people that you were supposed to hang out with or you were going to hang out with. You've essentially diminished the trust that they have in you for your ability to tell your girl, hey, like, this has been a plan. I've told these guys this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go and enjoy myself and have fun because this is what I enjoy to do. And I want you to support me in that, because by me going and doing this, it's going to help me fulfill my purpose. And you should be able to support me to do that, right? And if they can't support you, then there's different problems and there's things that they need to find on their own and they need to solve as well. But so that's one thing that could happen is you diminish the trust of the people that you were going to spend time with. And the second thing also happens at the same time is your girl now understands that she can control you. You aren't in charge of yourself. She's in charge of you, right? And if she's in charge of you and you're not in charge of yourself, then she can control you. And that means she can determine what it is you're doing, which isn't going to be your purpose. There's only one person that ultimately understands and knows what your purpose is. While your partner is there to help drive you and help bring you forward and keep you on track, they don't ultimately know what your heart desires, like what your heart beats stronger for, right? They may understand you right after 60 years of marriage or 40 years of marriage or whatever. They may understand you inside and out, upside and down, but they cannot drive your passion that's deep inside you. They can help you get there, right? You can communicate things and you can show them and you can do all that stuff, but they aren't ultimately in control of what that is. Only you are. So if you lose that and they become the driving force and the determining force behind what happens, then you lose your sense of purpose. And then at that point, they don't trust, right? You wouldn't trust. I mean, I can think about it, right? I wouldn't trust if I was with somebody and I knew that she really wanted to go out with her girls. She wanted to go out, to dinner, or we'll just say go out and get drinks or whatever with her girlfriends. And I was like, babe, I'd really appreciate if you just, if you didn't and you stayed home. She's like, well, I mean, I had this planned, like we had talked about this. I'm like, I know, but I just want to spend time with you tonight. Well, if she understands that and then stays back with me, right? While that may be a temporary fulfillment and she'd be like, okay, I'm putting you first, like you're more important than the girls. One of two things is happening. Well, really two of two things is happening. I'm not comfortable with myself because I'm asking her to stop doing things that make her happy and her fulfilled, right? With her own life. And two, her friends stop trusting not only her, but myself too, because I'm sure it's going to figure out at some point I'm the one that asked her to stay. Or, I mean, they can pretty much determine that if she's deciding to stay back and not go out with them, right? They can figure that out. So she loses trust in herself as well, because now I'm starting to control what she does. It's different, right? Because I'm not saying don't spend time with your person. What I'm saying is you gotta spend quality time when it's time, and you gotta let the other person fulfill their passions and find their purpose as well. Stay on their mission, because you need to do the same thing. You both need to be confident and trust in your core so that you can help the other person do the same thing for themselves, right? Remember that last part of what I read? It was tell her you love her, but you can't deny your heart's purpose. Your girl would rather have 30 minutes of ravishing, undivided love than a day's worth of uninvolved love, right? And that's the same thing is true. If you have time spent to go with other people, maybe you have a day set aside a week or something, right? And you're like, hey babe, listen, Tuesdays, the guys and I really want to go out and get cigars and drinks with each other and just kind of chill out and go talk and catch up and do whatever, right? These are the guys that I'm pretty close with, and this is how we want to spend our time. So maybe you have a week or a day a week you do that or whatever, but maybe you also have time that you go and you spend specifically with your woman or with your girl, and you dedicate that solely to her. You give her that undivided, ravishing time, or that ravishing, undivided time for her and only her. Because think about it, even in your own world, right? You would rather have somebody completely undivided and want to be 100% with you than have an entire day of them either pissed off or thinking about what they could have been doing instead of, spending it with you. That really wears down on everybody, because then at that point you become a nuisance and you become an irritant, and nobody wants that, because that just degrades a relationship and everything inside of it, right? That's a whole nother long story. So you don't want that. That's really not what you want. It's really cool because as I was reading this book, I was kind of talking to a close friend of mine, and him and his girlfriend have been, or not girlfriend, wife now. Jeez, that's right, I forgot. But they've been together really since high school, and I was with him. I've been he's been like a best friend of mine for a long, long time, back to high school. And we are constantly in touch. We hang out, on the regular, play video games and stuff together. So we stay connected and we stay really close. But him and his girlfriend or wife, man, I'm gonna keep doing that. Him and his wife have a really good relationship. They're really, really close. And they have a lot of these things that we've talked about in this episode so far that they do, and they stay important to them. And it's really cool because you can watch their relationship and how true and strong it is, because both of them have this inside themselves. I think, one had to work a little bit more on their internal core trusting a little bit more than the other, but at the same time, they helped each other get there, right? They helped each other fulfill their purpose, because that one that was essentially full with himself, or full in themselves, I kind of gave that one away, I guess, but the one that was full was able to help build that into the other person, and now they're both full. Both cups are full on each side, and now they can give to each other, and it brings a little bit more genuine purity to the relationship. But he is very much on his purpose. He knows his purpose. He knows what he likes. He knows what he wants, right? She is very supportive in that, and at the same time, understands now her purpose too, and what she wants to do and what she drives for, right? What makes her happy and what brings her forth. But together, they wouldn't have that relationship if he was willing to sacrifice things that he wanted to do himself. Now, he's very, very good at spending that undivided time with her. When there's times and opportunities for them to be together and to spend the time, either cooking or grilling or reading or in the hot tub together, or taking the dog for a walk or whatever it is, they find that undivided time, and he does a really good job at setting time aside to be with her, and only her, right? They go on vacations once a year, down to the beach, and they sit on the beach, for like a week or so at a time, and they spend time together. And she needs that, right? Every woman, every feminine energy really needs that undivided time. They need the time to know that they're appreciated and what they're giving and supporting, and the relationships being, fulfilled. The guys, I think the masculine energy, not so much, doesn't really need to be recognized, more or less just needs to be acknowledged, right? That, hey, babe, I really love you, and this is how I can show it, right? The masculine energy kind of needs it that way, whereas the feminine more needs the appreciation and the quality time and dialogue to show that appreciation. So he does a really, really good job at that. However, he also does a really good job at understanding his purpose, and when his girl stops him or is kind of like preventing him from fulfilling his purpose, he says, babe, I love you a lot, but I need this right now. Like I have this planned, and this is what's happening. Like, this is me staying on my purpose. I love you and I will spend time with you. But let me just do this with the guys, or, whatever I'm doing right now with taking the dog for a walk or going to the beach, or, whatever it is that he's doing, going out to the bars with the guys. Let me go and spend some time with the guys. And then let's set up some time tomorrow, or maybe we'll watch a movie later and we'll spend time just you and I. And that 100% is exactly what you should be doing. That's finding the ability to trust yourself in a relationship. And that builds so much more. I mean, think about how that would make you feel, right? Hey, listen, I can't stay home right now. Like, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go dirt biking, or I'm going to go ride my motorcycle, or I'm going to go for a hike or whatever. I'm going to go do this thing that I really want to do. But when I get back, let's sit down and watch a movie, or let's cook dinner together, or let's go to the beach together, or let's go for a walk together, or whatever it is, right? Let's go do something where it's just you and I, and we'll spend that quality time, the two of us, together. Think about how different that makes things feel. And that's because you're sitting there and you're confident in who you are, and you're comfortable trusting your core, because you can trust yourself and you know what your mission is, and you know nobody's going to get in your way and deter you from that. And that makes you whole and complete inside, and that ultimately will bring your partner to understand what makes them whole and complete in themselves as well. So think about that. Let your head wrap around that. If you want me to put some more content on it, I'd be more than happy to. This is a great topic, and I'm really glad a couple of my coaching clients had come up and brought this one up and wanted me to make an episode on it. So I think it's got some really good content there, something that really can translate into a lot of different relationships, because I think a lot of us struggle with trusting who we are and maybe understanding how that plays into a relationship if we just ignore the other person, if we're always trusting ourselves. But it's not really that. It's finding the blend and how those two work together. So thank you guys for tuning in. Super appreciate it. Again, like I said, always DM me at fulfillment_lifestyle on Instagram. Always rate and modify on Podbean if you can. Podbean, iTunes, Spotify. Follow us there. Listen to every episode. We post new ones every Monday and Thursday. And if you guys have anything else, let me know. But other than that, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.